Hi there, it's Dr. Tiffany, your resident homeschool champion, and I'm bringing you Thoughts of a Homeschool Mom by way of a 5-part series that I'm bringing to you this week where we are dispelling the 5 common myths about homeschooling. So, if you have been watching my videos this week, on Monday, we addressed the fact that homeschooling is unpopular. So we dispelled that myth. We talked about the fact that there are families homeschooling that from different races, religions, educational backgrounds, political affiliation, all of the above, and that there's no set criteria that you have to meet in order to homeschool your child. You just have to have a willingness to do so and a desire and a commitment to the researching and developing the program for your family. So we dispelled myth number 1 that homeschooling is unpopular. We know that's not true. Then yesterday we talked about the fact that homeschooling is hard to begin. That was myth number 2. And we dispelled that myth. We talked about 3 reasons why people think that homeschooling is hard to begin. And then we individually took each of those 3 things and we just broke those down, and we determined that it's really not that it's hard to begin, it's just a level of commitment that it takes in each of those 3 areas. So if you haven't watched those videos, I really encourage you to go back and do so. I will also include links to those videos as well in the comments so that you can can catch those as well, because there's some really good information there. So let's bring ourselves up to speed. We are on myth number 3. So myth number 3 is that homeschooling is the point of no return. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I've heard it said that, well, I think I'm interested in homeschooling, but my children are already in public school, already in private school, and I'm not sure if I take them out and I start to homeschool, what if we just determine that homeschooling isn't for us? Or what if my child decides they want to go back to public or private school? I'm not going to be able to make that switch. I'm not going to, if I do this, this is it, and I can't make any changes later on. And that can be further from the truth. Homeschooling and education as a whole is fluid. So if you decide to homeschool your child for a particular reason, maybe you just, to give them a break for a year from school or something, maybe they're having an issue and you want to give them some really dedicated time to something, or you maybe want to try out homeschooling, and when you try it out, maybe it doesn't work for your family. Maybe it works better for your child to be in a different educational situation, whether it be private, public, or charter, or whatever. So maybe it doesn't work for you. It's not the end of the world, and you aren't stuck there. Just like you're not stuck with your child being in public or private school, you can remove them from that space and put them into homeschooling if that's what you would like to do. The opposite is also true. You can transition your child from homeschooling back into public, private, charter, whatever. So there's nothing that's keeping you from making the switch back if you decide that that's what you want to do. In my specific case, my daughter has never been in any other educational environment formally other than homeschooling, although she did do some preschool in a preschool institution. She did some preschool, but that doesn't mean that that homeschooling is it for us. I truly believe that she has a say in how she's being educated, and so if at any time she decides that she would like to transition to something else, then we will do that. We will look into it and we will do it. So I don't think that you have to feel that it's the point of no return, that you can't make a change, after you've decided to homeschool, that you can't decide, I think we would like to transition to something else. Sometimes families decide to homeschool up to a certain point, and then once they get to a particular grade level, they want their children to be able to participate in a private or public or other environment, educational environment. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes it's, sporting. Maybe your child's really into sports and they would like for their child to play sports in a school in their area. Maybe there's particular programming that you like in the school, and when a school in your area and for where your child is in that particular district, and you want your child to participate in some of those activities. So while there are lots of additional resources and things for homeschooling families, where your child can participate in sports and can participate in the arts and in music and science and all these different types of things. Sometimes there are programs that are being offered by your local schools that you are interested in your child being a part of. And in order to do that, it requires your child to be a student in that particular district and not, in a homeschooling environment. So there are lots of different reasons why parents might decide to switch, to change, and, to do that. But I think you need to keep your options open for it if it's something that you would decide to do. And not to feel like, if I decide to homeschool, then this is it and I can't change it, even if it's determined that as life changes and as my child grows, that maybe it's time to make a change. I'm stuck here. I can't make any changes. So don't feel like that is the case. Also, I think it's important, though, to look at this and to determine if you're going to look at homeschooling and if you're going to pursue it, that you don't pursue it as, well, I'll try it this week and then next week maybe, I'll do something different. But that you do give it an actual real commitment and some actual real time to see if it's something that works for your family. And not to see it as something that you can kind of flip-flop. So while you can switch and there's nothing that's keeping you continuing to homeschool if you want to make the transition, I also don't believe that you should be trying to make that transition, we tried it for 2 days and it didn't work, or we tried it for even a month and it didn't work and we're going to switch now. I think you need to give it some real dedicated time to determine if it's something that works for you. And that, but also knowing that once you've given it some real dedicated time, that if it is deemed that you need to change back, or even after years of homeschooling, I know some families that homeschooled for years and then just decided to make the change. Maybe the school in their district, they were happy with some changes that happened there and were ready to make a transition and allow their children to do that. Some families who worry about socialization, which is another topic that is brought up heavily within the homeschooling environment, is whether or not your child is socialized. Some families who worry about socialization, they decide to transition for that reason if they feel like their child's not getting enough socialization. So there are a lot of reasons why that can happen. So don't think that you're stuck with homeschooling if you choose it, but also give it some real definite time and focus before you make any drastic changes. And that goes for changing from public or private or some traditional educational environment to a homeschooling environment. So don't just haphazardly switch your child from that environment into homeschooling, just the same as not switching them back from homeschooling back into a traditional environment. Don't do either one in a haphazard kind of on a whim fashion, but make sure that you are getting all the information that you need and you're giving it plenty of time to know whether or not, whichever way that you're going, whether it works for your family. So that is myth number 3, that homeschooling is the point of no return. It's not true. You can switch back if you need to, but definitely do so in an educated fashion, having given yourself plenty of time to know whether it works for you, so that you're not putting your child into a situation where they are kind of flip-flopping and not being able to find some sort of level or balance or comfort in their educational environment. Because remember, once again, as a parent, you are responsible for making sure that your child has an effective and efficient and inviting learning environment. That responsibility rests on you, whether you're sending your child out of the home for education or whether you're educating them in the home. That responsibility rests on you at all times. So we've dispelled myth number 3. So I hope that you will join me tomorrow when we get ready to deal with myth number 4, which is the fact that homeschooling has no rules. So we want to take a look at that one tomorrow, and we're going to do our best to knock that one out the park as well. So thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.